Well, we know that the challenges are really to get more with less. That is a ubiquitous challenge across all sectors and all environments. And there are certain ways that heads of learning are achieving that. Not necessarily in the most optimal, effective way, but purely in the pragmatic way to get things done. So what we're seeing is a significant reduction in face-to-face learning in classrooms. More learning taking place in the workplace. More coaching going on in the workplace. More of the old traditional sitting next to Nelly kind of training that we used to know many, many years ago. So formal training in the classroom is inevitably going to be reduced. I'm not a believer myself that it will be eliminated in favour of e-learning, online learning, blended learning, whatever you want to call it. I'm not in favour of that because there are many skills that people need that can only really be communicated face to face. The softer skills, the way you communicate with people, the emotional intelligence that is needed in today's workplace. And these sort of attitudes and skills are best conveyed and learned in group environments where you see the whites of people's eyes, you see their reactions, you collaborate as a group in a learning experience. So I personally feel that will always be a place for classroom-based learning. But it will reduce because a lot of things can be done online today. Younger people want to learn online. That's the way they do things. Once you've got Wikipedia and Google, what else do you need? That's their attitude. But so that is an inevitable outcome of the technology revolution that we're seeing. In terms of the working environment, though, when you think what learning and development managers have to do, they're focused in four areas really for training subjects, if you like. You've got people, you've got product training, process training, and systems training. They're the four areas that most training programs focus on. And the one that's being missed out now with this cutback process in a way is people. Of course, you still have to train people on new products. You have to train your customer-facing people on the new launches that you're making. So product training is a given. You have to have product training. You have to have systems training because if people don't understand how to use the technology that you've got in the organisation, then everything stops, doesn't it? And you have to have process training. You have to have structure and you have to have form in an organisation. So those things are givens. You've got to have those. But the one that can be cut perhaps more easily, and senior management don't often see the need for it anyway, is the people side of things, the people dimension, the people development, the people skills, particularly for managers. Often management development and management training is just about those other three things I mentioned. And when I became a manager myself many, many years ago, I was given no training whatsoever in how to manage a team, how to develop a team. I was appointed because I was seen to be good at the area that I was appointed a manager in. How many managers today is that true of? I would suggest 95% of managers are appointed mostly for their subject matter and technical ability and skills and knowledge, and it is assumed that because they have all that, they'll be a good manager in that area. Take a sales manager, for example. Often a sales manager is appointed because they're the best salesman. But the very qualities that made them a great salesman, as we know, ego, drive, determination, focus, they would disqualify them for being a good sales manager, where you need empathy, understanding, a team player, not an individual. So often what happens is you appoint the best salesman as a sales manager, and within a few months they hack off all the rest of the salespeople. They'll probably leave. And then they're not happy with the job that they're now in because actually it doesn't suit their character. So after 6 months or 9 months or a year, they join somewhere else as a salesman again. How often do you see that? So I think that although there are these systemic issues, we need to get L&D managers, and they are responding to this, to try to develop people and to look at the people skills. In recent years, there's been a big move towards emotional intelligence, hasn't there? Daniel Goleman and all the books and so forth now say that emotional intelligence is more important than IQ if you're going to progress in an organisation. So L&D managers are responding to this by seeking to focus more on their people, but within the constraints of a reduced resource. So how do they do that? They're having to outsource those requirements very often. They're having to go outside the organisation to specialist organisations that have the skills and expertise in those particular areas, which is fine, provided that the standards are consistent of delivery and design of learning experience, and they're not diminished because they're outsourced. So we're seeing that more L&D managers are now interested in external accreditation for not only their own training provision, but the training provision that they're bringing in from the outside. And that is why the training accreditation program has become so successful in the UK, because the standards that it conveys, the assessment models that it uses, which were recognised by a Queen's Award for Innovation some years ago, those standards give a guarantee of performance. So if you as a company, and we have 160 odd companies that are standardising or have standardised on the TAP methodologies, if you insist that all your trainers meet certain standards in their design and in their delivery and in their coaching and in facilitation models that they're working with, then you're going to want to make sure that the people you bring in from the outside meet those same standards. And that's where external accreditation to the TAP models actually is something that a lot of L&D managers are turning towards. Above all, what it will mean for L&D managers, the fact that these changes are taking place, it will mean they'll have to develop new skills in their L&D teams. We've spoken about the need to be able to collaborate with line managers, to manage the expectations of line managers, to help managers to involve themselves in the learning transfer system. We've spoken about that before. But also, we're going to need trainers who are emotionally intelligent. We're going to need to develop their abilities to communicate at an emotional level with their people, to meet these changing challenges and environments that we know are happening. So I think the answer is that every L&D manager will respond in a way that suits their organisation, and they will be driven in that response by the business. In many cases, it will be the senior managers of a business, the senior executives, that determine what heads of learning and development can actually do. You know, their priorities are set for them by business alignment requirements. But other than what they're being told is the prerequisites that they must do, the imperatives they must do, a good head of learning and development will also be looking at how they can meet the general challenge of developing their training teams to be able to contribute more effectively in ways that perhaps even senior managers don't fully understand, in ways that will engage hearts and minds of the workforce.